Hello, chickens. This is the fabulous Adam Richard, and I have a theory.
Hey, chickens. Episode 5, the counterplot. It's just called counterplot, not the counterplot, but you know, I had the in front of everything. So I was very excited by this episode because it's real. It exists. And I have seen it before. I've seen 2, 5, and is it 10? Is that the other one that still exists? Or 8? One of them. I think it's 10. Anyway, this is so exciting. Although we do maybe get one too many establishing shots of the planet of ferns and dry ice, which I think was a miniature because the dry ice bubbles looked kind of big. Maybe it was real. I mean, it was big and impressive, but I think they spent so much money on it. They're like, oh, let's get another couple of shots of it because it was expensive. This is also Planet of the Invisible Creatures, which is another Terry Nation trope that we will see again later on in the. I think have we done on this podcast? I think we've done Planet of the Daleks with the invisible creatures that the Daleks try to make themselves invisible and they go crazy. So yeah, we've definitely seen that because I did the whole, because that also is technically a 12 episode story because it's the first bit is the frontier in space, and then we discover that the Daleks are behind it all, and that second half is the Planet of the Daleks. Because originally, apparently, that was meant to be Cybermen and then Daleks, and there was like a big no-no at the Terry Nation estate, like, you're not allowed. What do you mean Terry Nation estate? He wrote it. He was still alive. Anyway, his boss, I think, or his manager said, no, you can't have Daleks and Cybermen together. We'll ruin it. That's what I heard anyway. That might not be true. It's a 70-year-old rumor. It's not that old. Even the show's not that old. It's a 50-year-old rumor at best because it's 74, maybe 75. Anyway, so they're on the planet of the invisible creatures. I remember the one with the blue fur that loved Joe. He didn't have blue fur. He just had a fur that was blue. Anyway. There's invisible creatures here. One of them fiddles with Sarah Kingdom's hair and then lifts up her arms while she's unconscious, and then proceeds to be some creepy footprints in the mud, which are really effective. The best bit, though, is when they travel, when they have the because they've wandered into this room full of very strange screens erected everywhere as the scientists are losing it. Oh, by the way, I love the science skirts. Science skirts are amazing. Like, there's these little kind of, they're kind of like tunicky things, and they go down to just above the knees, and the scientists all wear them. And it's the height of fashion to wear a science skirt. Hi, I'm in my science skirt. How are you? So yeah, I loved those. They were fun. Anyway, the scientists are like, no, get away from here, space security agents. We want nothing to do with you. And I find it interesting that they're called Space Security Service, which is SSS, and they look a little Nazi-esque in their costuming. I wonder if that was a deliberate thing, or that just was like, oh, well, they're called the SSS. We might as well make them a bit fetishistic. I don't know whether it's whether the design follows the name of the service, or whether the name of the service was intended, because like the Daleks are meant to be a Nazi allegory. We can't have a second one. But they are following orders all the time, except for Brett Vine, who obviously is like, no, I know more, I know better. Because Mark Corey has said, and it even turns up in this episode where Sarah Kingdom says, oh, no, I was just following the orders. You can't deny the orders of the guardian of the solar system. He's like the ultimate in, being the boss of things. And then we find out that when she killed Brett Vine, which was pretty quick, I didn't even let him explain, that he was her brother. That feels a step too far, frankly, in the narrative stakes. Like, to find that out after the fact, it's like, oh, he was my brother. I'm like, Yeah, you seemed a bit remorseless in the murdering earlier. I mean, it was a reconstruction. We don't know what kind of anguish she had on her face before she pulled the trigger, but it was over and done pretty quickly. So yeah, I don't know. And as soon as she kills him, she's like, "Yes, he's dead. Shoot for them and aim for the head." That was at the end of the previous episode, which is at the start of this one, obviously, because it's old school Doctor Who. We get a repeat. But yeah, I don't know how I feel about this revelation that he's the brother. It feels a little Dickensian, because there wasn't much in the way of foreshadowing in kind of episodic stuff once upon a time, like, because you couldn't afford to, because you were just pumping out a chapter every month or week or however long they came, and then the whole book would be put together later on. So anything that kind of dovetails in and out of itself is essentially just, you've thought later on, oh, that character coming back would be interesting. And I think that's the same thing here, is that Terry Nation has gone, oh, what if she's the sister? Like, because if that was decided beforehand, you would surely give a little bit of narrative heft to that moment of her shooting her own brother, instead of it just being something that happens at the end of the episode and you go, we'll deal with that next week. We've run out of money for Nicholas Courtney. We need to get a woman in. Also, we've just, plunged the only woman in the galaxy out of the airlock. So we better find another one. There is another woman in the previous episode, as you can hear the voice. Is she in charge of the space security services or whatever? She's the boss of, but she talks to Mavic Chan about their plot. Anyway, so the Doctor and Stephen and Sarah get sent to the planet Myra, the planet of dodgy ferns and dodgy ferns and dry ice. Sorry, having a sore throat moment. But yeah, so they go there, and when they go there on a weird trampoline, because they're like boing, boing, up and down with some mice in a machine at the front, and they're all floating in the air. And I noticed that the Doctor isn't asked to do it. It's like, yeah, no, we'll bust his kneecaps. And apparently, someone told me the other day, I had read this before somewhere, but apparently Stanley Kubrick rang the BBC and was like, how did you achieve that shot? It's amazing. Because he was in the middle of making films at this point, kind of just pre-2001, I guess. 2001 came out in 68, 69. So yeah, he would have been like, oh my God, I need to do this space thing. I want people bouncing with mice. Boing, boing. But yeah, it does look pretty impressive. And I think it was shot on film. I can't tell, but it looks very filmic. And just the fading in and out looks kind of more complex than I guess they were doing on video back then, but maybe they were doing it on video. The first effect where they all go high contrast and look like they've been photocopied is incredible, because it's a really effective use of video technology to make everything look very strange. And yeah, like I'm guessing they just turned the contrast all the way up, so the blacks were really black and the whites are really white. Like, when did you ever do that thing in art where you'd photocopy something and pump the contrast up and then blow it up big, and then you would color the kind of grayish areas in really black? So anything that was vaguely dark, you made black, and everything else was white. So you get this really lovely high contrast look. And that's what it looked like when they were being bombarded with whatever the rays were that sent them to the planet Myra of ferns and bubbling gases. Anyway, the Daleks go around, they shoot the invisible people and have caught the trio with the Terranium. This could be the end of the whole universe. So I guess we'll find out next in the Coronas of the Sun. Why is there more than one corona of the sun? I thought there was just the one. Anyway.